Hey, what's up? Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet. And hey, today is a super awesome, joyous party day. That's right, in case you missed it, they have officially charged all four officers in the Floyd murder. They finally charged them all with murder. Yeah, that finally happened. So that's it. We're good, right? The uprising's over, right? We spent 8 days. We went hard, called for justice. Yeah, no justice, no peace. So we're good, right? We're totally good. Sweet. All right, cool. Everybody, I want to thank you for coming out to the uprising. I had an awesome time. It was really great. Okay. Okay, wait. All right. Y'all know that's not a thing, right? Like, we got to have a serious talk about this. Okay. Yay. Uh, Four people who executed somebody in the middle of the street in broad daylight. And the entire thing was caught on camera. It took 8 days and arresting thousands of people across the United States of America. Buildings burning down, entire cities just completely just flicked off. National Guard, curfews, the whole 9 yards. It took all that for 8 days, charging thousands of people with crimes just to get four people charged. All that. And now, you know, the leaders are crawling out of the woodwork, whether they're civic leaders, they're religious leaders, they're community leaders, they're politicians, and they're saying, hey, everybody, we called for justice. Justice has finally been served. Everybody can go home. We're good. We're good. Look, we went out. We made our point. We fought the fight. That's what we wanted, right? So, if you've never been through one of these before, and I've been through this cycle of police stupidity for years, better part of a decade now. Um, y'all, this is just the beginning. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. Um, so I think it's time to sort of educate everybody and let you know what's going to come up next. So the trial for these four officers, it will probably take the better part of 3 years to begin. In between now and whenever that trial does happen, the local police union, police officers, and especially pushed through local media, will over time begin reinforcing the narrative that George Floyd was a bad person. He did drugs. He did crime. You know, surely he's not somebody who's credible, and you know his death, while unfortunate, you know, I mean, there were a multitude of mitigating factors as to why that, you know, everything went down the way it went. And this is going to go on for the next 3 years until they go to pull a jury pool, which the vast majority of people will now have been tainted through all that local media. And, all this propaganda, stuff like this is, you know, she looks really happy. You know, hey, look, hi, I'm a kid, hi, police are awesome. So you're going to see a lot of this for the next 3 years while hearing about how George Floyd is a piece of garbage and, you know, oh, so sorry. So I want to remind people how this usually goes, okay? Because yes, I don't want to detract from the successes. I don't want to detract from the fact that tens of thousands of people went out and they put their bodies on their line and they shut shit down. Risking arrest, risking maiming, risking death. Because yes, the police are still out there in hit squads and they're killing people every night now during these protests. But I digress. So let's take a brief jaunt down memory lane so we can take a look at how exactly this sort of thing goes down, okay? Let's look at a little historical reminder here. 1 second. Okay, so we did a little digging around, and I found this article that I thought we would start the day with about the killing of Amadou Diallo in New York. Now, for those of you who don't know, Amadou Diallo was killed back during the 1990s, during the Giuliani years, and his death is what brought about the 15-year-long lawsuit to get stop and frisk overturned, because that's how long it takes to get policing stuff overturned in America. Amadou Diallo is literally standing on his front stoop, And a bunch of police rolled up, and he must have matched a description. And he was shot 41 times right in the front doorway of his own building. And there were a whole lot of protests that happened at that time about how ridiculous it was. And at the time, then Mayor Rudy Giuliani actually called the protests silly. Yeah, they're silly. What a bunch of silly protests, right? I mean, oh, we accidentally killed somebody and shot him 41 times. You know, it was accidental. Protesting him is really silly. Asking for changes in our police processes, that's just silly. Asking us to not stop and frisk black people, that's ludicrously silly. Right, Rudy Giuliani? Yeah, that is absolutely ridiculous. So after 15 years of pushing stuff up and downhill, they finally got, quote, stop and frisk removed, although it still continues to this day. Your brief reminder here that all four of the officers who shot and killed Amadou Diallo were not found guilty and did not go to prison. But don't worry, they were arrested to stop the protests. Here's a good one for those who might have missed this. Hey, I found this one to be... this was an especially knowledgeable one. This is a former Punta Gorda officer who shot and killed librarian won't go to jail. So a few years ago, there was a training exercise in which police were trying to be good neighbors, and they were showing people how difficult it is to be a cop, and they were doing real life exercises with people from the community. And there was this sweet elder woman named Mary Knowlton, and while the cop was playing a game of, let's show you how tough it is to be a cop, he had actually forgotten to put, blanks in the training gun that they were using for the exercise. And he shot this nice, sweet woman twice in front of her entire family and like 30 people in the middle of this white suburb in Punta Gorda, Florida. And 4 years. 4 years it took for his trial to go through. And after everything was done, no jail time. Isn't that crazy how that happens? There was public outcry. This is an injustice. This man should be sent to jail. Yeah, no. So what happened was they reached a plea deal and he got 10 years of probation because he couldn't be bothered to take the bullets out of his gun and put blanks in before a public training exercise. Yet that happened too. Oh, look. Here, let's keep going down the list. Peter Liang, the New York City police officer who shot Akai Gurley in a stairwell for having the horrible crime of being black and in a stairwell in an apartment, also got no jail time. He got convicted. They arrested him. There were tons of protests. New York City got shut down. Tons of protests. New York City said, hey, we hear you. We're going to arrest him. Okay, everybody can go home. It's cool. We arrested him. 3 years later, they finally get around to his court case. Guess what? 5 years probation and 800 hours of community service. Why? Because jail is for the poors, not for the elites and those who serve and protect the elites. That's just how it goes. There is no equal application of the law in America. You must be silly. Hey, wait, let's keep going down the list. The officer who fatally shot 12-year-old Tamir Rice not only didn't get convicted, he got hired by another police department. What? That's right. Timothy Loman, who fatally shot 12-year-old Tamir Rice in 2014, got hired by another police department like 20 miles away. Crazy how that happens, huh? Let's take a look at this. 4 years. 4 years. 4 years it took to get around to all the legal maneuvering. And then he finally took his pension. He left the department in Cleveland and got a job in the beautiful suburb of Bel Air with a population of roughly 4,000 people. So not only did he not go to jail, he's still a cop somewhere else. For those of you who might not have remembered the story, Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old child playing with a toy gun outside going, pew, 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 pew. And he rolled up in a police cruiser. His partner drove up, and the car didn't even stop. The car was still rolling to a stop, and he immediately jumped out and shot a 12-year-old kid to death. Guess what? No jail time, still a cop somewhere else. But it's okay because there were protests and the police were like, hey, hold on. Justice will be served and it's okay. You can all calm down and go back home. Everybody says, okay, we'll go back home. Hey, it's cool. Hey, remember Darren Wilson, the cop who killed Michael Brown in Ferguson? Not only did he not go to jail, but he had a whole bunch of GoFundMes and a police pension that left him with more than $1 million when he retired. Nice, huh? Not only did he not go to jail, he got a 7-figure golden parachute. Way to go, Darren Wilson. Yeah, that's what we like to see. Which brings us to this little ditty, gang. Here you go. Since Eric Garner died 5 years ago while being wrestled to the ground by New York City police officer, by the way, that police officer's name is Daniel Pantaleo. Please don't forget his name. Since that, few instances of civilian deaths at police hands, either accidental or intentional, have ended up with cops facing trial. According to Mapping Police Violence, one of the few groups that tracks this, law enforcement officers in the U.S. intentionally or, quote, accidentally killed more than 6,800 people in the 5-year span between 2013 and 2018. 6,800! In 2017 and 2018 alone, more than 2,300 people were shot and killed by police. And among deaths reported by that website, an officer was charged with a crime 1.7% of the time. That's right. Just because you arrest somebody, just because you bring charges against them, a lot of times it doesn't stick. It doesn't just go through. And the few who do actually get arrested and get arraigned, they immediately get bailed out by their union and they go back home and they kick it with their family for 3 to 4 years until there's a trial. Yeah, every once in a while there's a trial. Would anybody care to guess what happens at the trial? Hold on. They have some numbers for that too. Let's check it out. Yeah, while it's rare to see officers indicted for killing civilians, convictions are rarer. Of 104 state local law enforcement officers who've been arrested for murder or manslaughter since 2005, only 36 have been convicted of a crime. Yeah, that's about 1/3. And by comparison, 217 people charged with murder and manslaughter in 75 counties in May of 2009, 70% were convicted of murders or other felonies, which is twice the rate. And again, the 33% of officers who are convicted, they represent the 1.6% of officers who actually get charged. So that is roughly 33% of the 1 point something percent. That is a tiny, tiny infinitesimal little piece. And even when officers are convicted, they're often found guilty of lesser offenses and receive more lenient sentences than civilians convicted of the same crimes. There's clearly bias there in the system. And that's where we get to here. A little closing thought, people. Yes, there are a lot of police officers out there that individually are, quote, the problem. They are the bad apple. But your larger problem is systemic. It's you have a very large system where the police, the attorney generals, the district attorneys, the state judges, they all work together to maximize the conviction rate and the sentences for black and brown people convicted of small crimes. And police are very rarely, if ever, charged. And when they are very, if rarely ever convicted. And if they are convicted, they receive lesser sentences. And during that time, the 4 years that it takes to slowly populate the local jury pool with tons of propaganda talking about how the victim of police violence was actually a piece of garbage and probably deserved to have this sort of thing happen to him. They go through all of that. And this happens time and time again. So my reminder to everybody is, yes, it is amazing that you all actually got some charges filed against these people. Do not let up. Because that is merely a sample. It's an example. They're giving you a small win because they're suing for peace. After Eric Garner was killed in New York City, protesters went out every single night. tens of thousands of protesters went out, and they marched sometimes 25 miles a day, and they did it every single day for 2 weeks, and they ran the NYPD into the ground until the NYPD was so exhausted they were forced to publicly sue for peace and had to give away a bunch of concessions, and even those concessions did very little. So my closing thought to all of you out there who are going hard, all the people with the revolutionary attitude and spirit, people who understand that the system is the problem, this one result, it isn't going to change the system. What's going to change the system is continued, unrelenting pressure. You have to force the police state to sue for peace. You have to demand major concessions. And until those concessions are met, you have to keep pushing. Thank you very much. I love and appreciate you all. My name is James. I'm from the internet. I'm out. Peace.